How's it going, people? Welcome back to the Aftermath. I hope you're all good. Today's subject is going to be my experience with my relationship with food through the prep, my experience after, and potentially a couple of things that have helped me that I want to almost speak about and pass on to you guys that may help you too. I want to preface this by saying that there is a certain level of inevitability around placing strain on your relationship with food when taking things to the extreme with your body composition. Ultimately, you are going to go through a period of time whereby you're going to be very restrictive in terms of your food itself. You are going to have a lot more food focus because that's almost necessary in order to stick to what you need to stick to for as long as you need to stick to, and not to normalize the struggles that we do face with the relationship with food, but almost just to recognize it a little bit more and to place some level of reassurance in your guys' mind that if you are experiencing any of the struggles that I personally faced, just knowing that you're not alone. That is something that people regularly experience after going through something like this. It's definitely something that will not last forever. It's something that we can put things in place to kind of work through a little bit easier, and hopefully this video can help today. One of the biggest things that I experienced throughout the diet itself was just that increase in food focus. So constantly thinking about, right, what's my next meal? When is my next meal? What am I gonna have? How am I gonna make that meal tasty? How many calories have I got left for the day? What are my macros today? Those things are constantly ticking over. That can also then transition into focusing on all of those things that you can't eat. All of those things that maybe you can't fit into your nutrition that you do enjoy, all of those sweet treats, all of those greasy foods, burgers, pizzas, like all of those things that you haven't had for a long time. You can start focusing on those a lot as well, and potentially fixating on all of the foods that you're going to eat once this is over and all of those things. So one thing that I tried to avoid consciously was not shooting myself in the foot even more so from that standpoint by doing things that I have seen other people do and kind of experience the negative impact from that. So a couple of things like just following food accounts on Instagram or watching things related to food on YouTube, food challenges, like anything that's going to just cause you to sit there and just watch and fixate on all of those foods that potentially you're not going to be able to have for a long period of time. You're just making it a lot tougher for yourself. So for me personally, it just helped not kind of looking at all of that stuff and developing that relationship with food throughout the diet of fixating on those things. Another thing kind of post-diet that I experienced was just insatiable hunger. Again, it'll be something that you guys could relate to in terms of you'll eat and it'll almost feel like you haven't even eaten. There's a big skewing of the hunger signaling that we have in terms of our leptin and ghrelin levels, our dopamine response that we get from food versus the physiological need for food. And what I mean by that is there are certain processes in the body that tell us that we need to eat food if we are hungry. They are all completely off post-diet because you've just been through a period of famine essentially. And we're almost programmed to eat as much as possible after a period of famine. We are programmed to say, right, we've just gone through a period of time where we haven't been getting enough calories, enough energy in order to maintain homeostasis. So when we suddenly have some food in front of us, we need to get this in as much as possible because that might then go again. In reality, the food's going nowhere. In reality, you are now in a position whereby you can eat adequate calories for your general health, for maintaining a kind of healthy set point in terms of your body composition. And another thing is the fact that you are very lean, you are unhealthily lean if you are shredded, and you need to put on some body fat fairly quickly in order to get back to a healthy position. I am now sitting at 72 kilos. I'm kind of hovering around 72. At my lowest depleted state, I was 67 kilos within the diet, and then fully kind of carved up and in a fairly normal state, not depleted, I was 69. So I've gone from, on shoot day I was around 69 kilos when you saw those pictures, and now I'm 3 kilos heavier than that in the 3 weeks post-diet. And that is a very, very good thing. That's a positive thing. That has put me in a healthy position whereby I am now feeling back to normal. My energy is good, my mood is good, my training performance is amazing, my sex drive is back, and I'm just healthier physiologically. Whereas that in itself can be a head fuck massively because you've gone through a 3-4 month period whereby the one goal is to lose body fat, to see your body weight go down on a week-to-week basis, and now you're going in the opposite direction of that. You are gaining body fat back. You are losing the condition that you just worked so hard to get into. But the realization that you are there as a holiday destination, right? I say to clients all the time, you are not getting this lean to stay this lean. You are on a vacation whereby you get there for a few days, you get there for a week, and then you get the hell out. Because if you stay there, that's quickly going to turn into something that is not great for you, right? Being in that position is not healthy, so we need to get out. Whereas seeing yourself in the mirror lose that condition, seeing yourself get a little bit softer, it's a big challenge. And I think one of the biggest things that has helped me, and something that I think I picked up from Paul Standel, who I used to work alongside with the Muscle Mentors, and he is an incredibly knowledgeable guy, but he's done a lot of work in terms of people's relationship with food and psychology around that. And one of the talks that I had with him, I think it was in one of the lectures, was looking at your values and what you're actually working towards post-diet rather than what you're working away from. So for the last 3-4 months, as I said, you've only valued how lean you look, right? You are now working away from that. However, if we can place a focus upon what we're actually now moving towards, something that we now value more than being shredded, that's going to help mentally massively. So for me, I have set the goal in place to be gaining lean muscle tissue, to be transitioning into an off season in order to put on the size that I need to in order to be competitive within my first competitive season, to build the physique that I need to outside of like the physique stuff, to be able to socialize more, to be able to go out for dinners more, to be able to be present with my meals, to be able to sit and eat a really nice kind of dinner or lunch or meal out and not think about the calories and macronutrients that it contains, but rather the experience that I'm in, that this food brought me to, of kind of, I just went to Budapest and had an amazing holiday with Yasmin. Been on multiple kind of meals out with my family, my friends since the prep that I wasn't able to do throughout that whole thing. So focusing on the positives, focusing on what you're actually moving towards rather than away from is huge. And that's another thing tying into that in terms of things that help me. So actually getting meals booked in with people, focusing on everything else that comes alongside you being able to be more flexible with your nutrition now, outside of just sitting there and eating as much food as possible. And that for me was being able to spend time with the people that I love and the people around me. So within that kind of week or two post-diet, I had kind of multiple meals booked in with different people. The day after the shoot, directly after the shoot, I went for a burger with Eddie and Yasmin, who came up to London with me. In the days after that, I went for a birthday meal with Yasmin because it was my birthday. I took my mum out for a meal. I went for a couple of meals with my mates. And that allowed me to sit in a restaurant, connect with the person in front of me, be present with the meal, enjoy it, and stop in a position whereby I was full and I was satisfied. And potentially if I was just kind of at home, sitting on my own, eating all of the foods that I've missed, you end up going past that point where you're full. You end up eating for the sake of it, almost that Christmas dinner feeling of you're just sitting there eating because you can, whereas you don't really need to. And that's another big point that I want to make linking into that. So being self-aware within those times where you're eating, being very present with the meal, actually slowing down and thinking about how does this taste, what's the texture, what am I experiencing within this meal, and then also being in touch with your physical hunger levels in terms of, right, I feel that my stomach is full now, I'm satisfied. If I continue to eat past this point, I'm going to start not really enjoying this experience because I'm overly full. So that's another thing as well, and that's again something that's really tough because those things are skewed. But as much as possible, if you can be eating until you're physically satisfied and stopping there and realizing that food is going nowhere, in an hour's time, if you are hungry again, you can have some more, but you don't need to get as much food in as possible within every single meal. Food is there for you now. It's not going anywhere. You can have it. So that's another big thing there. Another thing that I was very aware of going into that post-prep period, prior to even going into it, was the potential to feel guilty around eating all of those foods that you have restricted yourself from for a long period of time, and recognizing the fact that there is no reason to feel guilty over eating anything that you do. Even if you go through a period of time where you know that you have just been a little bit gluttonous and just eating as much as possible, even if you do that, there's no need to feel guilty. There's no need to have any negative kind of relationships or connotations around that sort of behavior, because realizing that that is normal, it's almost necessary to some point, and it's again something that is likely benefiting you within those weeks post diet in order to put on a little bit of body fat. But recognizing the fact that when you are feeling those feelings of weird kind of guilt that you feel, sitting with that, trying to actually feel that feeling and understand why you're feeling it, trying to rationalize that as much as possible, and speak to people about it as well. Like, be open and honest about it. The more kind of you can kind of speak to the people around you about the things that you are experiencing post-shoot, the more normalized that becomes, rather than having it as some weird little secret that you're hiding away from people. And you'll see from anyone that followed me throughout that post-prep period, I was very kind of open about all of the meals that I was going out and having. Obviously, kind of just coming back from holiday and all of the kind of nice food I had there. And just normalizing it, being open and honest, and being like, right, this is what I'm kind of doing. If you're struggling with anything, speaking to someone. And that's a really important point that I want to wrap up on here, in terms of everything that I'm speaking about within this video is just speaking about my experiences. I'm not giving kind of medical advice here, but I think the biggest thing is just the fact that I am speaking about the challenges that we face post-prep in terms of our relationship with food, and the fact that those things are very regular, normal challenges to face. However, if you do feel that you are really struggling in terms of any of those things, especially for a kind of prolonged period of time post-prep, and you feel like it's maybe not getting better on its own, or you haven't got the support that you need in order to continue to improve with that sort of relationship with food, or you feel that it's progressed into anything a little bit more in terms of more down the lines of an eating disorder, etc., then it's so important to be reaching out and speaking to someone, even at first, if that's close friends, close family, and then obviously speaking to a professional that has the qualifications and the understanding of how to help you through that. The hardest thing is that initial port of contact, that initial point of, right, I'm gonna chat to someone about this and speak to someone. You will be so scared to kind of chat to anyone about it. You'll feel potentially ashamed, you'll feel embarrassed, you'll feel all those feelings that you really don't need to, but again, fairly normal. But as soon as you start chatting to someone about things, and that goes for anything as well, like your relationship with food, your mental health, like anything, just chat to someone about it that is qualified. I've been open and honest about my kind of experience with therapy over the last few years. I've seen a therapist for maybe, what year are we in now, 2022, so maybe like 2.5 years now. I started off kind of every single week. I saw a therapist once a week for a whole year. I then cut down to like once every 2 weeks, and now I just chat to her once every month. And it was the most transformative period of my life, because I addressed all of those things that were holding me back. I addressed all of those things that I had just hidden away from for so many years. And yeah, it honestly is something that I would encourage everyone to do if you have the facility to do so. As soon as you're in there, as soon as you're able to kind of be open and honest and chat about those things, you leave having felt such a weight lifted off your shoulders, and just to know that you're moving in the right direction with everything is huge. So that's kind of the last point I want to finish up on. If you are kind of really struggling with things like that, please do reach out to someone. And yeah, hopefully you took something away from this video that was valuable, that kind of was insightful in terms of the things that I have personally experienced throughout this process as well. Again, if you ever need to kind of reach out to me, then I'm always open in the comments or the DMs on my Instagram. So if you ever want to just reach out and chat a little bit, feel free to fire a message and I'll get back to you. Hope you all enjoyed. Do that YouTuber stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Started as an East Coast vibe, now I'm going worldwide. We got this bitch going crazy. I used to take the Mazda for a drive, now I'm on the 405.